Hi, and welcome to Cujo Sound. It's been a while since I posted anything here, but you know, life happened. Anyway, this is Bjørn Jacobsen speaking, and I would like to discuss more of the features of the upcoming Counterstrike 2 game. I made a previous video where I discussed the reverb settings, just in a closed environment, and you can hear the slapback and where the areas overlap. That's all fine, but I recently played the game with some friends. I didn't tell them I was recording, so I'm gonna try and keep them as anonymous as possible.
Yeah, right.
And I also need to find footage in between us talking. But it will give us a great idea of how the new reverb of the Source 2 engine works, and why it's a good thing in many ways, but also why it is, to the untrained ear or to the conservative CSGO player, might sound like a bad thing, or it's too different from before.
Why not?
The reverb is also much more defined than the previous video I made out about CS2. This one we were playing on Mirage, and this was the level up for grabs in the new beta before the new batch of players came in. And it'll be interesting to hear the difference from this and the new level, Inferno, that just got out.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't notice this in the previous version of CS2, but notice the minimap here, showing a circle around the player in the middle, showing at which range your current action is audible, giving you a great understanding of your jump, land, run, and other movement sounds. This is not as such an audio feature about how audible you are, but since this is a feature that shows you how audible you actually are to other clients of the game, then it's a real game changer in many ways. If your circle of the minicap encapsulates one of the players that is on the map, then you will also know that you were just so noisy that they might have heard you. And since this is a game about audible information, then it's pretty important.
Yeah.
For a lower ranked player like myself, this is quite valuable information.
Jeg har en penge på susen. Hvad sker der her?
I'm surprised how the development of this game is going, per level it seems, and how much Valve developers are actually listening to what the players are saying about the beta. Or perhaps it's just us players witnessing them develop as they go. Some of these changes are definitely common sense aesthetics, if you ask me, and if I was the audio director. Like, the reverb of your gunshots has been altered slightly from the previous beta, but also other players' gunshots have, meaning that being in a noisy environment where others shoot, the overall soundscape is much more vibrant and actually overly realistic, kind of approaching the uncanny valley of audio. But this is also a good thing because of the acoustic ecology of how we as players perceive things then. Different from visuals, in audio we like to have things overly pumped up or overly obviously unrealistic for us to actually perceive them as realistic. Sorry, Schaefer. The reverb on footsteps here, when coming through a door to outdoor, is also much more clear. It's different from CSGO, but from an audio perspective, it's much smoother and actually nicer to the ear. Handling of the weapons is also made a little more subtle. When weapons land on the ground, they have a much smoother sound than in CSGO. Also, again, the headshot sound is not as aggressive as before. The sound of a winning round is also changed. It's much more an arcadey style of game, and it's also a much more arcade type aesthetic, which I know will put some players off because now the game seems more like an actual toy than a serious game, but it doesn't really bother me because winning a round is something that I actually rarely hear. Of course, you still hear the MVP music. If you have any, I don't, but here there is some, for example. Once you get a confirmed kill, the sound is different from before. And yes, I'm a really bad CS player. Don't hold it against me. When you're in the buy menu, all the sounds are muffled, except for voice comms and the nearby shootings.
Molotov. Laying down smoke. Incendiary.
Occlusion also happens on weapons really nicely, so it's not just through doors and rooms that the reverb or muffling that changes. In this example, I have teammates running on my left behind a wall. Previously, this would seemingly only be lowered in volume. Now it's also clearly filtered because of the occlusion between the walls. Personally, I think the filter is too hard on the sounds, and it's like an auditive uncanny valley. I get that it's probably on paper more realistic, but the change is too quick or steep. I would have set the filter smoother, but then again, this is a game about speed and listening to information, so information about locations would also have to be fast. But this gives a much more realistic soundscape though. It feels much more intrusive, and the filtering is very harsh at the moment, which might be off-putting to some players, but in the long run, I think it's for the better. The overall foley of the character is much more smooth. This may even be the same asset as in CSGO, but the mix is much nicer and soft on the ear. If you shoot a player carrying the bomb and they actually drop the bomb, it gives off a small beep, meaning that you now also have auditive information about a bomb drop and don't exclusively rely on the fact of looking at the minimap or being told by your teammates that the bomb was dropped. You now also hear it. You even now get a small transition when you switch sides, then enthusiasm from my teammates is just through the roof.
En overgang.
Ordentlig syg, altså. Skal vi lave slangen?
Because of the new reverb changes, a lot of the weapons are slightly altered in sound. This might also be because it's the same asset, but the reverb is different. It's just different filtering, really. And one of my teammates describes the Glock here as a water pistol. Nice.
Det lyder som sådan en vandpistol, det her.
And that's it from this video about CS2. I hope you liked it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up, and if you want to stay on top of video game audio, tutorials, and other similar topics, consider subscribing to the channel, or you may support the channel by heading over to patreon.com/Cujo Sound, where you for as little as $1 a month can help me sustain this channel and the time I have to take off to create this content. I would really appreciate it. Until next time, this is Bjørn Jacobsen saying ta-ta.